The previous inscription is not the oldest one. An older one was found in Zaporizhia Oblast in the burial ground Mamai Hora in southern Ukraine, which is very close to Kherson Oblast. To see it, we will open the work of the Ukrainian historian Serhiy Zhanovich Pustovalov, titled Did the catacomb population of the northern Black Sea region have any written language? In the original Ukrainian, чи була писемність у катакомного населення північного Надчорномор'я. To provide this image, he refers to the Ukrainian archaeologist Gennady Mykolaievich Toshchev. The burial where this inscription was discovered is dated by scholars differently. The Ukrainian archaeologist Vitaly Vasilyevich Otroshchenko thinks that it belongs to the Zrupna or Srupnaya archaeological culture, 1900–1200 before the Common Era, whereas Serhiy Pustovalov dates it back to the catacomb period, 2500–1950 before the Common Era. We will be estimating its date at 1950–1900 before the Common Era. The fact is that the inscription itself seems to be indeed written in the catacomb signs. To decipher it, we will be relying on the research conducted by the Ukrainian scholar Igor Mykolaievich Rasocha, titled Indo-European Origin of Alphabetic Systems and Deciphering of the Biblos Script. His work consists of two parts. The last is about his attempt to decipher the Biblos script proper. The first contains a table where different alphabetic systems are compared, including the signs of the catacomb alphabet. The object on which the catacomb characters are inscribed is called pot by Gennady Toshchev and Serhiy Pustovalov, but it also resembles a jug, that is, a pitcher. The word pot, jug, or pitcher, which is the same as jug, is what we may expect to see in this inscription, and I think it's indeed present here, but in a slightly different form. The word pitcher is translated into Ukrainian as zban or zbanok, alternative forms being zban, zban, and so on. Little pitcher as zbanya, and the initial characters of the inscription suggest it comes first. The first four of them, according to Igor Rasocha's table and my interpretation of the inscription, may correspond to the consonants z, b, g, n. The second consonant is interpreted as b, not quite based on Igor Rasocha's column for the catacomb characters, but on those for the rest, in particular the Phoenician and Elder Futhark runic characters. The next two signs seem to represent a suffix. The first phoneme in this suffix is an e or a-like vowel. In Igor Rasocha's table, their signs look somewhat similar. The second one is the consonant k. Unlike the previous two consonants h and n, which are written top to bottom, these two ones are written bottom to top and appear to form a ligature. In advance, I can say that this inscription is not the only one where the bottom to top direction is used, but the others will be shown another time. The first word in the inscription in question is either zbhanek, which means little jug or little pitcher, or zbhanyak, simply jug or pitcher. In the Ukrainian language, there is also the word banyak, which means metal pot, but whether it's related to the word zban in any way is unclear. But we can say why the previous form of the Ukrainian zban was zbhan, because zbhan is related to the perfect verb zbhati, zibhati. The imperfect bhati or perfect zibhati means to crumple, to rumple. To make something from clay, clay is rumpled. The letter z in the word zban, like zh in zhban and the z in zban, is a prefix. This point seems to be corroborated by the Vedic Sanskrit word for jug, kumbha. The first syllable kum is probably also a prefix, and the Latin cum is likely its morphemical counterpart. The Latin preposition cum means with, as does the Ukrainian preposition z, but these two prefixes and prepositions didn't develop from the same sonem. Most likely the proto-human language contained both their prototypes, but in the future languages, their final realizations became different. The proto-human language might have been a sort of union of the morphemes of the modern languages, not their intersection from any perspective. When it emerged, it might have had many dialects since almost the very first day. The fact that the Ukrainian language probably has the prefixes zh and z that are alternative forms of the prefix zs seems incredible, but in the Ukrainian language there is a word with one more variant on it. Shlub, marriage. In Polish and Belarusian it also exists, shlub and shlub respectively, and there is no such word in Russian. Why do I mention Russian? Because I'm also debunking the myth about the great Russian culture. The word shlub consists of a form of the prefix s, which can be literally translated as with, and the root lyub, which is present in the verb lyubiti, to like. The term shlub denotes two persons that like each other. Don't let the verb like instead of love confuse you, because the Ukrainian word for married couple is podruzhye, where the root drug denotes the friend. Now, what does the second part of the inscription say? The next sign, I think, is a ligature of two, though such a character not as a ligature exists in the Biblical script. The first one probably represents the phoneme O. The second is the same as that in the first part of the inscription that was pronounced H in the previous case. In what order we should place them becomes clear after reading the next two, the first of which corresponds to the phoneme R, and the second to U, V, W, or a phoneme alike. The whole phrase, in terms of pronunciation, resembles one of the following options: zbganik ogru, zbganyak ogru, zbganik ochru, zbganyak ochru. In modern Ukrainian, it means respectively zbanik ochre, little jug of ochre, or zbanok ochre, jug of ochre. Ochre or its traces are found in many graves at Mamai Hora, either under or on the skeletons of the buried people. In the grave with the jug, there are found its clothes, the jug itself lying near the skeleton of a child. Ochre is encountered in the catacomb burial places much more often than in those of the Zrubna or Srubna culture. Therefore, our dating of the inscription to 1950-1900 before the Common Era is fair enough. Whether this inscription is written in a dialect of Proto-Slavic or in a separate Slavic language is what we can probably argue about. The word ochre in this inscription is a masculine noun. In modern Ukrainian, Polish, Belarusian, Bulgarian, it's a feminine noun. In the other Slavic languages, it's a masculine noun, but in Sloven it exists in both the genders, masculine ochre and feminine okra. On the other hand, the second phoneme of the word ochre in the inscription is rather unlikely to be k. It's either h or h. In this word, the phoneme h is pronounced in Ukrainian, Polish, Belarusian, and Bulgarian. That's why, due to the geography, most likely this inscription is written in the ancestor of the Ukrainian language, regardless of whether it's Proto-Slavic or not. In the case of not, the age of the Ukrainian language will cross the mark of about 4,000 years. It would mean that Proto-Slavic diverged earlier, before the second millennium, before the Common Era, which should not surprise us. In the inscription, several signs already resemble to some extent some of the letters in modern alphabets. The sign for B is almost the precise copy of the Cyrillic B, the Glagolitic buke, the Latin lowercase b, and the Hebrew bet. But why is it expected? Because these letters seem to be the counterparts of the Egyptian lower leg hieroglyph, which is also pronounced B. This means that the first contact between the Syrians and the Egyptians might have happened before the second millennium, before the Common Era. Answering the question of whether the Syrians resided in southern Ukraine in the 20th century before the Common Era, my answer will be likely. The Syrians are an autochthonous Ukrainian-speaking people on the territory of Ukraine. The last sign in the inscription resembles the modern Cyrillic U, the Latin I Graeca, and the Greek Upsilon. Treating it as the Greek letter enables us to consider a scenario in which the last word is pronounced not ogru or ochru, but ogri or ochre. In any case, the idea that the word ochre in the Slavic languages was borrowed from Greek or Latin has to be rethought, as it may be wrong.